And we're live, streaming from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and thank you so much for joining us for our unique podcast community, where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. Thank you so much for helping our community grow. We just hit 1,620 subscribers yesterday, and we grow every day thanks to you who watch our shows and share our videos. Really appreciate that. You can also follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and if you want to see our past over 220 episodes, check out our website at www.jasontram.net. We'd also love it when our guests talk to us and join us in the chat feature. Make sure you ask questions of the guest. You can also send us a super chat. We always appreciate that. So thank you so much for joining us. And we're delighted to welcome our guest, Mark Reitenga, who is joining us from the Midwest in Detroit area, and he is a singer-songwriter who's been nominated for multiple awards in Detroit. His music has been heard all over the place, and we're delighted he can join us today. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, it's great to be here, Jason. Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. And did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
I did not. In fact, some of it, I fell into it. My mom encouraged me to take guitar lessons when I was about 12, 13. I used to sing on the bus, and people would encourage me to sing and do a little mini concert for them. I don't think I realized that I had talent. And then
did you sing in choir when you were in school?
Oh yeah, but it was kind of after. So yes, I even sang in kids choir in junior high school. But you don't really stand out when you're in a choir. You're kind of all equal, right? So I didn't really know I could stand out until later,
Yeah, sometimes the directors will find those voices and say, hey, you've got something there, you should take voice lessons. Did you take lessons as a kid?
I did not take voice lessons. I took guitar lessons. And just a quick neat story, one of my guitar teachers is the official Michigan troubadour in Michigan. His name is Neil Woodard, and he's considered the official folk troubadour in Michigan. So I didn't know that at the time, but he was a great, great teacher. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, sometimes when you're a kid, you don't realize these things, how good some of these people are. I had a great teacher when I was a kid too. She went to went to Juilliard, had an opera career, and I was so lucky. It's so important that we're around people like that who kind of inspire us and get us to reach our potential.
One other guy, Mr. Gandolfi, he was my guitar teacher in junior high school. I took it in school, which was pretty cool.
That is cool. Did you start writing songs back when you were in high school, or when did you start that?
Some, kind of throwaway songs in junior high school. And I was just kind of making it up as I was going with the chords I could, learn and figure out. And the girls in the class would always kind of swoon. But I don't think I knew really what I was doing, It was later on that I think that the songs became more coherent, if that makes sense.
Did the lyrics come first or the chords and the music?
I would say in the early days, the chords came first, and now I almost always write the lyrics, and then I kind of write the melody in my head, which I think is kind of unusual, and then I lay the chords that fit them after. I think most people write the chords first and then write the lyrics, but I'm opposite now, so I know it's kind of unusual.
I love talking to singer-songwriters because I really enjoy the whole genre, and I really love discovering lots of new people. I've discovered you through Reverb Nation, and Reverb Nation sends us so many good, really fine artists, and I'm always impressed by the indie artists who I listen to literally hundreds of people before I find one that sticks with it. I'm like, boy, I really like something about that song, or something grabs me. And I heard your Detroit blues, and it grabbed my attention. I loved the way your voice sounded and the way you kind of delivered. It was kind of like a no-nonsense, but also really well-crafted blues song.
Thanks so much. In fact, the guy who recorded, his name is Doug Sherratt. He also lives in Royal Oak. He tricked me into a very relaxed take that he said was going to be a scratch take that became the actual take.
Isn't that interesting? That's a great technique. That's a great technique to get someone to relax and perform their best, and not have the nerves of this is the one that's going to be heard around the world. So tell us about your first time in the studio. When were you first in the studio?
That's a great question. I actually did a little recording when I was about 22, 23. A church friend, Jeanette McShera, she had some connections. She worked for a radio station, so we recorded a couple songs to get played on that Christian radio station. It actually never made it on the station, but we did record, and I got to learn, kind of how tough it is. You can't really make too many mistakes in the studio. And it was in the early days in the 90s where there wasn't as much fixing, there wasn't as much digital access to, so you had to have a really good take. So that probably helped me to kind of perfect my craft, to go in and be ready to play it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Musicians are always honing their craft and learning, and there's so many things when you think about it, the songwriting process, the chord vocabulary that you use. What are some other things that have changed as you've been doing this through the decades?
So much has changed. I think really it's not being arrogant. I think before I wanted my voice to be really loud and strong, and I think I learned over time that my soft voice is actually my best voice. So you just learn over time. People kind of help you. They tell you, hey, Mark, you really sound a little screechy here. Why don't you just relax, And it might just be because I've been in rock bands, so I was just trying to project. So me projecting is a little too much. So I think that laid back kind of AM soft rock style is what I'm the best at. So that I'd say that's the biggest thing I kind of learned.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear how people can change genres and you find the genre that fits you best. It's the same with opera singers. Often I was a singer when I first started my career, and I wanted to sing the big heavy opera roles, but my voice is just not that voice. It doesn't fit that, and I find that I do certain other things well. But it's like Michael Bolton was a heavy metal singer before he became the singer-songwriter and kind of crooner that he became.
Yeah, that's great. Were you in the chorus, like in the opera? Were you one of the guys in the chorus?
I did the chorus professionally. I also did small roles, like called compromario roles. So I did both those, but my heart was the big, gigantic role. So I went into conducting, and then I've gotten to conduct all the big ones.
You wanted to be Pavarotti, is that correct?
I wish. Boy, what a voice that was. One in a billion.
For sure.
I got to see Pavarotti perform twice live, and boy, when he opened his mouth, there was no doubt that was the voice of the generation.
No doubt. You're light years ahead of me on that. I'm a easygoing folky singer, I could not do that, so I'm impressed.
He would literally open up his mouth, and it would be like I could tell who that was instantaneously. It's like, wow, his voice has such a unique, it was like the embodiment of the Italian sound.
100%. Him and the three tenors, right?
Yep. It was that Seinfeld joke about Pavarotti, Domingo, and the other guy.
And the other guy, Carrera.
The other guy's still singing. He did a concert a couple of years ago. His voice is in a little rough shape, but he was doing a concert in New Jersey. I'm like, he's still singing? I'm like, wow. Amazing. Poor guy. He don't have to do it anymore, but I want to get back up there and do his thing. So what's it been like for you during COVID? Have you been doing a lot of performing? Have you been doing a lot of recording? I mean, I know so many of the colleagues we've had on the show have been doing almost no recording. It's just starting to come back now. How was it for you?
I would say a lot of both. Obviously, when COVID first hit, I was kind of forced in my house for a couple months. So I wrote a handful of songs. I wrote a song called Cinco de Mayo, and I sang it at a Cinco de Mayo party, a Zoom party. I wrote a song called The Wonder during then, Paris Misses You. So I wrote a handful of songs, and then I was able to record them as, COVID started to subside. So I did record those, and I played quite a few live performances, as I was telling you in the early goings when we first started talking, under tents, a lot of outside tent performances where, it was a little safer, or it wasn't in a big bar where you were smushed together, but, open air places. And I really enjoyed that.
People really needed that, right? I bet people really needed that because, I mean, there's only so many Netflix shows you can binge and so many streams we can watch.
Jason, the tips were great. I've never gotten so many tips. It's awesome.
People need it.
You want to make money, but you want the crowd to be happy. But hey, when there's a couple of 20s in there, it feels good, I got to say.
It's good to hear. But, we all needed that. I mean, we all went for a long time without hearing anything live. We were all kind of sequestered in our basement. I was doing, I had 2 choral societies at my university choir and orchestra, and they were only remote. So I would
Right.
just walk from my bedroom to my studio and Zoom and live stream and do recordings. And my son and I edited 100 virtual choir and orchestra projects and kept our communities together, which was the most important thing. But it was definitely not the same thing.
Did you enjoy that, or would you rather be with the orchestra?
A million times I'd rather be with real life people.
Agreed.
But I think it's amazing what we can do, what we've learned. I learned that I really enjoy doing this. I love the conversations with people from across the world. We've had guests on this show from Malaysia and Australia and all over Europe and Africa. And it's just interesting to me that we can have these type of conversations. And I always learn something from colleagues like yourself who have a different perspective on music, who come from a different culture sometimes. And it's just so interesting what musicians can learn from each other.
Everybody has a different form of practicality, right? We all do the best we can with the talent we have. We use the dynamics we know how to use, the intricacies of the guitar playing, the singing, the songwriting, engaging the crowd live, engaging the crowd on a CD. You know, it's all intermixes. I don't know if you agree, but that's kind of how I feel.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. So who are some of your hero singer-songwriters, people who inspire you?
That's a great question. Thanks. A lot of them were my mom and dad's record collection. My brother and I used to kind of dance around in our basement with our tennis rackets, and we would play along to the Meet the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Waters and James Taylor and Carly Simon and Marvin Gaye. We just listened to all they had that record and tape club. I don't know if you remember that in the 70s.
I used to have that in the 80s.
Yeah.
In the 90s, I had that for sure.
Yeah, they weren't listening to anymore, so we did. I mean, we literally dove into those records. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, all of that. Neil Young. Just, man, I feel like I'm there right now.
And you come from the Midwest, and boy, there's lots of great music from Motown, and Detroit's got some music history.
It really does. Ironically, most of my heroes weren't from Detroit, but as I've gotten older, I've really learned to appreciate Smokey Robinson and Marvin Gaye and Bob Seger and Grand Funk is from Michigan. I don't know if you knew that. Just things that you learn went. I think we all like the Beatles, so they're from Liverpool. So, but there's a lot of great Detroit music, kind of garage rocky, a lot of it. So that's
garage rock turned mainstream.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
It's like garage rock turned mainstream. A lot of those bands.
White Stripes, right?
Oh, the White Stripes. That's right. Okay, I didn't know they were from the Midwest. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to perform for any of those type of people? Have you been playing around?
I think they have been in the crowd before, and I just didn't realize who they were. In Detroit, the bar I played at a lot is called Dick O'Dow's in Birmingham, and I was always surprised how many famous athletes I played for. Guys that were on the Detroit Red Wings teams or played for the Pistons, and you wouldn't realize until you're done. You're like, oh my God, was that Shane Battier? Oh my God, was that Isaiah Thomas? You know what I mean?
Wow.
I expected that to happen.
You never know who's in the crowd. I got a great sports story. I was conducting, of all things, a Verdi Requiem, which is a big, exciting piece with 150 voice choir and a 75-piece orchestra. And I was doing a big rehearsal, and I finish up, and this really tall, gigantic guy walks up to me and starts talking to me about music, of all things. And I noticed he had a Pro Bowl ring on, and we just kept talking, and it was Mark Gastineau from the New York Jets.
Oh, yeah.
And we became friendly. He was a lovely guy. He came over. He wanted to talk to me, and I introduced him to my mom and my kids, and he signed my score. And he came back there a few times afterwards. I'm the music director at a summer place called Ocean Grove. And it's the most unusual pairing of people because I'm not really a football fan, but he was just a really cool guy. We got to talking, and you never know.
I had one quirky one. Neil Patrick Harris was at the farmer's market I was playing all the time, but I didn't realize until after he left who he was. He's so real looking. I just thought he was just a regular guy,
He's a fantastic actor. That's cool. Doogie Howser, MD.
Doogie.
Wow. So now, how many albums have you put out in your career?
Technically speaking, I've only put out one. I changed my strategy after being involved in the Reverb Nation portal, because you can submit your music to them and they will critique it. So if you reach a certain score, which is 7.5, they put it on their homepage. And that really helped me, because it took me a long time to get a song good enough to reach that, which was that Detroit Blues. So the Detroit Blues is really on an EP. It's not on an LP yet, but I spend more time trying to perfect songs than I do perfect albums. I know that seems like a strange strategy, but I want each song to be
not today. Not today. I mean, just to give you an example, I teach undergraduates, and they're like 18 to 22, and I was asking them, we're in choir rehearsal, I'm like, trying to explain to them why like longer form music is interesting, like, you know, like a mass, which is 5 movements, or, you know, a requiem, which is longer. And we were just talking about, and I get off on a tangent because I'm a professor, it's what I do. And we were talking about, you know, I'm like, how many of you guys listen to albums? And they kind of looked at me blankly. I'm like, Dark Side of the Moon. A couple of them raised their hands who like have parents into it, you know, things like that. I'm like, they don't think in terms of albums anymore. They think in terms of singles, because that's the way it's fed to them on Spotify.
Yeah, so sorry that I sound like I'm selling out my generation, but I'm not. It's just I would sell the CDs at my gigs, but it was at the end of it where people didn't have CD players in their car anymore, so I wasn't selling as many. So I just kind of, I probably shouldn't have stopped, but I stopped that attack and tried to make the songs better. So my original LP is called Unsung, and it came out about 2002. But I really haven't released a new one, not a real new one, not you can print and sell at a gig. So it's all digital.
All digital. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that makes sense to me. You know, that's really where everyone has access to it across the planet. They can get there and find, just type in your name. And on Spotify, I know you're on Spotify. I looked it up, and I know you're also on YouTube, of course, and also on Reverb Nation.
I am. I'm on SoundCloud, Amazon, Pandora, I guess. I try not to worry about the portals, because really it's about writing and creating better songs. That seems to drive me. I would rather write one great song than have 5 okay songs and 5 average songs. That's kind of my songs I could play live means a lot to me. So I have about 6 or 7 now that I rotate.
Wow. And how often do you get to perform live these days?
I play a lot. In fact, sometimes in the last couple of weeks, I played Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I really love having days off. But it might be a farmer's market one day, a live concert series the next day, a bar the next day, and then a festival the next day. It's just, I just try to take what is the funnest gig I can play for the most people. I know that doesn't sound very strategic, but I've done the I'm hidden in the corner thing. I'm tiring of being the background music guy. I'm glad to do it, but it's not as fun as having people clap and sing along.
And your music, watching your videos and your live records on YouTube, you really get the audience going. You really, like, that's a big part of what you do, is the live part of it, right?
Yeah, and it took years. I have had so many people help me to hone my festival set, and that's what I really want to do, is play on a stage for 100 people in front of me. That's kind of, probably every singer's goal, right? And you've got to have the best material. That musicians tell me, Mark, don't play this song, don't play that song, just play the hits, So in that one you watched of me playing at Arts Beats Neats, it was 2 covers, 1 original, 2 covers, 1 original. My side guy and friend Bobby East taught me that, and I'm very grateful for that. Play your best material, right?
And I would say the same for when I go see rock bands. Boy, throwing a cover on there makes it a lot of fun. You never expect it, but you get it. It's like, oh, everyone loves that song. It was just really mixes up the set.
You've done Yes Do America by Paul Simon, right?
Yeah, they did it on the tour. My son played on one of their tours, and I was just like, cool, that's awesome.
Awesome. Agreed.
They also did a version of Kashmir going into Don't Kill the Whale that blew the audience's mind.
Really? Okay. Wow. I'm in.
Yeah, it was like, that's kind of different. I didn't expect to hear Led Zeppelin tonight, but that's cool. Okay, we'll knock that out.
Great song.
I love to go see rock shows, and I just love different types of performances. I'm really a fan of live musicians and people who work and pour themselves into their music. Tell me about the topics you choose when you're writing. What are the lyrics that grab your attention? And I always say that music's like an amber that captures everything around it. What are some of the things that fascinate you when you write music?
That's a great question. In fact, I was lucky. My dad, Rex, used to challenge me to write songs about our relatives and parties we would put on, and I would have to write a targeted song about somebody's 50th birthday or stuff. So I've learned to be a topic singer. So you could literally give me a topic, and I can write a song about it in a couple days. So I have songs about ghosts, and I have songs about angels, and I have songs about just strange topics from the Bible or legends. I just anything that I think is cool and out there. That's the best thing to write about, I think.
One of your songs on Spotify, it was about angels, and it really grabbed me today. I was listening to it, and my mother comes over. I was doing a little bit of research while I was working on my opera company business, and my mother was like, "That's a really great song. I love that."
Yeah, that is my kind of delving into the Bible and researching all the conversations about angels in the Bible, and from abject fear to brilliance and love. So they conjure all these factors. So I can't think of anything that's more majestic than otherworldly being. So that was just me trying to understand what humans think of them and what the Bible says about them. So it's just me going through and writing down words that made sense about them. So it's me regurgitating the Bible's angels.
Does faith have an important part in your music?
Oh, very, very important. I'm a very faithful Christian person, and that song just worked. I've written lots of Christian songs, but that specific song by far is the most well liked by people. So I'm just grateful that you and your mom liked it. So thank you.
Well, I'm always looking for songs that grab my attention, and then your voice is very direct, emotionally direct. Also, with singer-songwriters, boy, you have to capture people's emotions immediately. Did that always come easy to you?
I don't think it's purposeful. I think if you like the song and it matters to you, and you're starting to get a rise from the audience, it becomes more and more emotional. But when you're recording a song, I don't think you always know, right? I don't think I knew that Angel's song was going to be so well liked, but it has become that. So I'm proud of it, but I don't think I knew when I wrote it that it was going to be what it turned out to be. So it's quite an adventure. It's a journey.
Yeah, who are some of the best singer-songwriters who you have inspired you? Who are some of your favorite inspirations?
Oh, there's no doubt it's a handful of them, and I'm going to name a couple Christian ones and secular. So
sure.
On the Christian end, it's Rich Mullins, who has passed away, and Phil Keaggy, who is one of the most amazing guitar players. If you ever have a chance to see him, amazing musician. And on the secular side, obviously Paul Simon and Paul McCartney and James Taylor and Cat Stevens and now I can't think of him, Sundown guy, the guy from Canada. I can't think of his name. But all of the greats from that time period. Bob Dylan, all of the greats.
So a lot of real icons in there. How about today? There's a real rebirth of some really fantastic singer-songwriters from the young generation. I hear a bunch of them we've had a couple on the show, and I follow around the singer-songwriter stations, have it on the car sometimes. I just love to kind of just experiment. And have you encountered any of the new guys or girls?
I feel bad that I can't talk about it in strength as much as I'd like to, because it's hard to buy CDs now. In the old days, you could go to a CD store and kind of flip through the counter. But now I have to find it by accident on like a Sirius channel or something. So the only examples I could maybe give you, and I know it's not that new, I'm a gigantic Coldplay fan. Man, who's somebody young? I mean, Ed Sheeran obviously is fantastic. I can't think of the actor. Damien Rice, I think is.
Oh, Damien Rice has got a great voice. Yeah, interesting voice too.
I feel bad. I'm freezing right now, but I would say there's tons of great young singer-songwriters, but I just can't pull them up in my head right now. So those are a couple that just come to mind.
Now, you've been doing this for a long time, and what's something that you would tell your young self now, looking back as when you started?
I would say just be more careful about practicing it and honing it before you put it out. I think I one of my greatest strengths is getting opinions. I ask my mom, my dad, my brother, and all the people at work. You can see my background here. I work at a newspaper. I get people's opinions about songs, and I don't think I did that. I think I played for myself. And I'm not saying I don't play for myself, but I've learned to vet the songs. And I think that's important. I mean, I have to say, Paul McCartney definitely benefited from John Lennon telling him he liked the song or George Martin liking a song. It's got to be incredibly beneficial. So if I could go back in my time machine, I would say to my younger self, don't just start playing it. Make sure that it's the best material that you have, and get some opinions on it. That's my advice.
And I'm always amazed by people who are professional musicians who have day jobs and do a whole something different. I always look back at Charles Ives, who the great composer who revolutionized music. His music was respected by the greatest minds in Western civilization, like Arnold Schoenberg and anyway, all these people loved his music. But he was actually a very, very successful insurance salesman. He wrote a book on insurance that was used for years.
Right. It's funny, on the opposite end, I always think of Amadeus, who was probably the best musician in his lifetime, died so young and penniless, right? Had no
36.
other job. Yeah, right.
In rock, it's the 29 club. In classical, it's the 36 club.
Right. So I'm not saying I wish Amadeus would have fallen back in our thing, but it sure would have been nice to have had a little throwback money to help him with his finances.
Yeah, that's the reality. A lot of musicians are like that. Beethoven died. He was actually just getting into the meat of his career. And
right.
Mozart definitely was poor. Schubert was poor as a field mouse. Yeah, a lot of these guys have struggled. Then there's a few of them who did very well with their music. Brahms was did very well. He was actually died very wealthy man. But yeah. I mean, it's never, the musical path has never been an easy one.
No, and that's why I would never demean somebody if they needed to make other kinds of income. Not everybody has the virtue of having a great producer behind them, like a George Martin. We all have to find their way. So, so I appreciate that. I agree with you.
Now, your music has been nominated for awards in 2015, 17, and 18. Tell us about the Detroit Music Awards, and what was it like to have your music be recognized that way?
It's funny. I wanted to be recognized by them for many, many years prior to that. So the unfortunate thing when it comes to the Detroit Music Awards is they have to know you. There's a scene in Detroit of musicians that vote for it. So you could not vote for it. You don't live in Detroit, for instance. So it's you're voted by your peers. So I started playing in more open mics, and I started becoming more a guy that was hiring other musicians. So I think I got lucky that there was other musicians that started nominating me and voting for me. So it is a real honor to be even nominated, because there's some heavy hitters in Detroit. I mean, these musicians are, some of them are much better instrumentalists than me. So I've learned to appreciate them. And sure, I would like to win one, by the way, but it is being recognized by your peers. And that it does feel good to have that on your resume, if that makes sense.
Well, keep on writing great music and touching people's lives, and the rest just falls where it may, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, continued success with that. Now, here you're going to play a song for us today. What do you like to play?
Yeah, I'm going to play that song we were talking about earlier. This song is called The Detroit Blues. Ironically, it's being played on our indie radio station that I actually got through Reverb Nation as well. So it's in the top 10. So I just feel like it's apropos. It's kind of a this is what it's like to live in Detroit song. So here it goes. It's called The Detroit Blues, okay?
You got it.
Hey, Detroit, have you heard the news? No one's learning in those inner city schools. I look out my window and and I get the Detroit blues. Hey Detroit, there's competing views. Poor struggling neighbors can take a walk in their shoes. And I live north of 8 Mile, and I get the Detroit blues. The Detroit blues, they got me taking cues from a worn out old refrain. The Detroit news, they're writing bad reviews, but I don't want to hear those again. Belle Midtown, Woodward, and Cass Avenues, but still there's ghettos, indignities abused. I think I'll go downtown when I get the Detroit blues. Hey Detroit, the Lions will probably lose, but new cars keep on selling, people pay their union dues. And I live north of 8 Mile, and I get the Detroit blues. The Detroit blues, they got me taking cues from a worn out old refrain. The Detroit news are writing bad reviews, but I don't want to read those again. Come on, Detroit, let's talk about it. The haters gonna keep on hating, not very motivating. I think I'll go to bed. I've got the Detroit blues, yeah. I think I'll hit the sack. I've got the Detroit blues.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So tell us what inspired that song. You mentioned that your mother is not a huge fan of that one. Tell us why.
You know, I think I wrote the song during a sermon at church. And I think I was thinking about what it feels like to live in Detroit and how many excuses we make for it, and how really at the end of the day, the state has forsaken the city. We've literally stepped away from them and let them deteriorate. So we all have a certain responsibility to help them get back, but so do they. So I don't really like to sugarcoat things. To me, it's like I feel like just because we put some money in that Midtown area doesn't mean Detroit is fixed. And I really do think it needs to be nourished and nurtured. And so, you know, your kids have to go to public school. They have to get, their high school degree, go on to college. So it was just me saying they're not doing that. You know, not to be mean-spirited, just saying what was on my mind.
There's so much talent in the inner city. I used to work in Newark, and there's so much talent sitting there. And, we need to find that talent and encourage that talent and foster that talent. The one thing about inner cities is that the talent's an equally distributed property. So if you take and you nourish that talent, it's best for society.
100%. And I'm not saying I'm any kind of, expert on the, topic of struggle. It was just from my point of view. I'm a white collar guy. I never missed a meal in my life. So it's just, Detroit is a kind of a precious place. And have you ever been, by the way, to Detroit?
Never been to Detroit proper.
Okay.
My cousin lived in Detroit, but I'd never been.
Yeah, it's a really neat historical town, all kinds of great architecture and great people, great music. It was a great place to grow up. If I sound negative, it's just me wanting it to be better. That's all.
And the Lions, well, we have the Jets in New York, so we understand your pain there.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
And I'm a Mets fan, so we feel your pain constantly.
I need to make a shout out. An editor here at C&G Newspapers, Dave, he listened to my song and said, you know what, you need to talk about the Union people and you need to talk about the Detroit Lions. So after I had recorded the song, now when I play it live, I put those in there. His name is David Wallace. Sorry, I was blubbing on it, but he's the one that encouraged me to write that line. So I have to give him credit for adding that to my live performance of the song.
Cool. I love how things change as you perform them, and
They do.
performance is like the cauldron that kind of changes the music. Before you record songs, do you take them live and like let them live for a while before they get put down?
Yeah, I try to. I think more now it is a faster process. It goes from the infancy of the song being finished to playing it for friends to recording it. Whereas in the old days, I would get 6 months to play it live. But I think it's faster because I think I'm excited about the song, so I want to record it. Does that make sense? So you would
Sure.
think I would master it, embed it. But truthfully, the Detroit audience isn't going to be honest with you anyways. They want to hear Brown Eyed Girl. So really, you got to get a good take of the song and then play it live for people. I think it really does help rather than do it the opposite way.
Cool. What other how did the COVID period affect the pieces? Did you write a lot of music in COVID? I'm always interested to see how the challenges we face manifest themselves in the music.
Well, I've written several songs during COVID because I guess we're still kind of in it. But just to walk you
Absolutely.
through, I wrote a song called "It's Cinco de Mayo" for a Cinco de Mayo Zoom party I did through my friend Tim Castaneda. So I wrote it while I was jogging. That's a true story. I was jogging behind my house for about an hour, and when I came back, I had the whole song in my head and literally laid it down on a voice. And then
That
I
was a
wrote a
good
song.
jog, a productive jog.
I think your endorphins are going and you're able to concentrate. So literally memorized the song. It's kind of weird, right? And I wrote a song called "The Wonder." That's the one that I would say I agonized the most over. Changed the key of the song and perfected. I wrote a song for my mom called "Paris Misses You," about trying to encourage her to go back to Paris. We went there for my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary, and it was a very special pre-COVID time. So it was my kind of encouragement to my mom to go back to Paris. I'm trying to think if I wrote another song that I've recorded. I didn't write it during COVID, but I've released a song called "The Leprechaun," which is more of a kid's song since COVID. So those are really the four songs I've done in the last 18 months that I was proud of.
And where can people go to find these? They're all on your Reverb Nation site? They're all on Spotify?
Yeah, it's all predicated on Mark Reitenga. It's the hardest last name in the world. It's Reiten, like the number 10, GA, like Grant Apple. It's twitter.com/Mark Reitenga, reverbnation.com/Mark Reitenga, facebook.com/Mark Reitenga. So the best way anybody can find me is just to Google search me. They're going to know more than they want to know, unfortunately. But I'm on most, streaming, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora. Not Sirius though. I don't know. Maybe you can help me get on there, Jason.
Well, we put these out there, and people do see it from all over the place, and it's important. Keep on putting our name out there in different ways, and you build an audience. I mean, people find your music, they discover it, and they may not have known it before, and all of a sudden, people start following.
I 100% agree, and it's not always finding me on those channels. Sometimes they just find me live. I have a little bit of what I call my wine posse. I do really well at wine bars for some reason. And people started following me around Detroit, so I have a little posse that kind of follows me around, which is pretty exciting, really. I never had that as a younger singer, so that's kind of neat. They like that live performance.
It's totally a different experience when you hear it, and you can feel the energy of someone live. It's nothing like it.
Yeah, do you mind if I say a couple shout-outs?
Please do.
Yeah, people that really have helped me, the Sangs, Linda and Michael, Mark Springfield, Debbie Grant, my brother Mike. I know I'm forgetting people. Noel Scher, James Whalen. I just, people who have supported me over the years. I just wanted to say that to them. I never have the forum to do that, so that's why I'm doing that right now.
I appreciate it, and keep on making music that touches people and touches your heart, and it's such a special thing when someone shares their music that way. There's something so personal about singer-songwriters on the stage, maybe with just a guitar. You also play the ukulele too, right?
Yeah, I guess I could have played Detroit Blues on it. Truthfully, it's just harder to keep in tune. But when I was in Paris with my parents, I played it exclusively, and I went into some bars and they would just stop, and I'd be singing along with all the Italian and French and German people. It was pretty neat. So the uke is a very portable instrument.
I see more uke on campuses, and like people really like the ukulele these days. I guess it's such a kind of easy, transportable thing to just get up there and play some chords and make it work.
I love it. I find like I feel like I love it more than anybody does. But I know it is popular. But it's something I do that's kind of me, I guess.
Well, keep on doing it, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us, and everyone should check out this artist, listen to his music, and follow him on. People should subscribe to his YouTube channel, and here's a place where you can find interesting, serious artists making great work happen. Any last thoughts, Mark, before we break up? What's your next project?
I would like to release an album. I've been kind of sitting on it. I have enough material to do it. So that's one thing I'd like to do. I would also like to maybe tour somewhere. I've really never played, like a festival outside of the state. That would be great to come and play to New York City or New Jersey or go to Chicago and, get paid to play. It would be just fantastic.
Well, when you do, you let me know. I live right outside of New York City, and I would be there first.
Oh, that's so cool. Jason, I appreciate that. That'd be great.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe to us and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. We love when you like and share our videos as it helps our community grow. And remember, folks, keep music alive. Thank you.